Big Bang Theory. Season 1 Episode 5. Series 01 Episode 05 The Hamburger Postulate Scene. The Cheesecake Factory Sheldon. Alright, I'm moving my infantry division, augmented by a battalion of orcs from Lord of the Rings. We flank the Tennessee Volunteers, and the North once again wins the Battle of Gettysburg. Vocabulary. Infantry division. A large military unit consisting mainly of foot soldiers. Augmented. Made greater in size or value. Battalion. A large body of troops ready for battle. Flank. To move around and attack the side or rear of an enemy. Cultural references. Orcs from Lord of the Rings, fictional. Monstrous humanoids, often used as foot soldiers in J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy world. Tennessee Volunteers. A nickname for Tennessee military units, particularly associated with the American Civil War. Battle of Gettysburg. A pivotal battle of the American Civil War, July 1-3, 1863, a major Union victory. Expression. Sheldon demonstrates his highly specific and unusual method of playing a strategic game, blending historical military tactics with fantasy elements. His focus on historical accuracy, the North winning Gettysburg, shows his intellectual precision, even within a fantastical context. Howard. Not so fast. Remember, the South still has 2 infantry divisions, plus Superman and Godzilla. Cultural references. Superman. An iconic superhero from DC Comics, known for his vast powers. Godzilla. A giant, destructive monster. Originating from Japanese films. Expression. Howard introduces more pop culture characters into the game, showcasing his imaginative, and often absurd, approach to play. Leonard. No, orcs are magic. Superman is vulnerable to magic, not to mention, you already lost Godzilla to the Illinois Cavalry and Hulk. Cultural references. Superman is vulnerable to magic, a well-known weakness of Superman in comic lore. Illinois Cavalry. Military units from Illinois, likely referring to those in the Civil War. Hulk. A powerful, green superhero from Marvel Comics. Expression. Leonard attempts to apply a consistent set of rules to their blended historical fantasy game, highlighting the challenges of their shared, yet chaotic, imaginative play. His correction of Howard's previous loss for Godzilla adds another layer of specificity. Raj. Why don't you just have Robert E. Lee charge the line with Shiva and Ganesh? Cultural references. Robert E. Lee. The commanding general of the Confederate Army during the American Civil War. Shiva and Ganesh. 2 prominent deities. In Hinduism, Shiva is the destroyer, and Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. Expression. Raj, typically quiet, interjects a suggestion involving powerful Hindu deities, further escalating the fantastical elements of their game. Howard. Shiva and Ganesh? The Hindu gods against the entire Union Army? Cultural reference. Union Army. The Army of the United States during the American Civil War. Expression. Howard expresses disbelief at the scale of Raj's proposed divine intervention, even within their already outlandish game. Raj. Excuse me, Ganesh is the remover of obstacles, and Shiva is the destroyer. When the smoke clears, Abraham Lincoln will be speaking Hindi and drinking mint juleps. Cultural references. Hindi, an Indo-Aryan language spoken predominantly in India. Mint juleps, an alcoholic cocktail traditionally associated with the American South. Expression. Raj defends his suggestion by explaining the powers of the gods and then creates a comical, culturally blended hypothetical outcome, showing his dry wit. Penny. What do you recommend for someone who worked up a man-sized appetite from a morning of weight training and cardio funk? Vocabulary. Man-sized appetite. A very large appetite. Cardio funk. A type of aerobic exercise with funk music. Howard is likely exaggerating his physical activity. Expression. Howard, trying to impress Penny, exaggerates his morning workout to justify a large meal, highlighting his attempts at presenting a masculine image. Penny. A shower. Expression. Penny's quick, sarcastic retort suggests Howard is smelly, deflating his attempt at impressiveness. Sheldon. Statistically unlikely. Expression. Sheldon, true to his empirical nature, expresses doubt that everything on a restaurant menu could be good, based on the laws of probability. Sheldon, I like the hamburgers where we usually have hamburgers, you can't make the assumption that I'll like the hamburgers here. Vocabulary. Assumption. A thing that is accepted as true or is certain to happen, without proof. Expression. Sheldon rigidly adheres to his established routines and demonstrates his categorical thinking. He refuses to extrapolate his preference for hamburgers from one restaurant to another, requiring specific data for each. Penny. Which one, the classic burger, the ranch house burger, the barbecue burger or the Kobe burger? Cultural reference. Kobe burger. A hamburger made from Kobe beef, a high-quality, expensive type of beef from Japan. Expression. Penny lists the specific menu options, further complicating Sheldon's decision-making process. Sheldon. Can't we just go to Big Boy? They only have one burger. The Big Boy. Cultural reference. Big Boy. A chain of American casual dining restaurants, known for its distinctive, Big Boy, double-decker hamburger. Expression. Sheldon reveals his preference for simplicity and predictability, longing for a restaurant with only one hamburger option to avoid decision paralysis. Sheldon. Excuse me, in a world that already includes the Big Boy, why would I settle for something like a Big Boy? Expression. Sheldon, having been told the barbecue burger is like a Big Boy, argues that the existence of the original renders a mere like version redundant and inferior, showcasing his pursuit of optimal choices. Sheldon. Waitresses don't yell at you at Big Boy. Expression. Sheldon complains about Penny's previous impatience, highlighting his sensitivity to perceived negative social interactions. Sheldon. We don't. This is a disturbing aberration. Vocabulary. Aberration. A departure from what is normal, usual, or expected. Expression. Sheldon labels their presence at the Cheesecake Factory an aberration, reinforcing his adherence to routine and his discomfort with novelty. Howard. And walks in quiet beauty like the night. Cultural reference, literary allusion. A line from Lord Byron's poem, she walks in beauty, like the night, of cloudless climes and starry skies. Expression. Howard, true to his character, attempts to use a romantic literary quote to flirt with Penny, often in an uninvited and creepy way. Penny. Oh, wow, a girl scientist. Expression. Penny expresses surprise and admiration, reflecting a common, though increasingly outdated, societal view that science is a male-dominated field. Leslie. Yep, come for the breasts, stay for the brains. Expression. Leslie's self-aware, provocative, and confident remark, acknowledging that her physical appearance might attract initial attention, but her intellect is what's truly valuable. It's a statement of feminist empowerment with a wry twist. Leslie. So, I'm glad I ran into you, the physics department string quartet needs a new cellist. Vocabulary. String quartet. A musical ensemble. Consisting of 2 violins, viola, and cello. Cellist. A person who plays the cello. Expression. Leslie reveals Leonard's hidden musical talent and a practical reason for their meeting. Leslie. He switched over to high-energy radiation research, had a little mishap, and now the other guys are uncomfortable sitting next to him. Vocabulary. High-energy radiation research. Scientific study involving radiation with high energy levels, which can be dangerous. Mishap. An unlucky accident. Expression. Leslie's casual explanation for the previous cellist's departure, implying he's now radioactive, is a darkly humorous nod to the dangers of their field. Leslie. Yeah, the Department of Energy said our regular space is kind of a hot zone. Vocabulary. Hot zone. An area containing dangerous levels of radiation or other hazards. Department of Energy. A U.S. government agency responsible for energy policy and nuclear safety. Expression. Leslie's explanation of the hot zone provides a concrete, humorous detail about the potentially hazardous nature of their scientific work. Leonard. Yeah, my parents felt that naming me Leonard and putting me in advanced placement classes wasn't getting me beaten up enough. Cultural reference. advanced placement classes, high school courses designed to give students college-level experience. Expression. Leonard humorously explains his parents' overscheduling and intellectual pushing, implying it made him a target for bullies, a common trope for intelligent, less athletic kids. Howard. If you're into music, I happen to be a human beatbox. Cultural reference. Human beatbox. A person who uses their voice, mouth, and lips to imitate drum machines and other percussion instruments. Expression. Howard, seizing an opportunity to show off, offers his, likely poor, musical talent. Sheldon. He asked her out once, it was an embarrassing failure. Expression. Sheldon, with his usual lack of filter, exposes Leonard's past romantic rejection, much to Leonard's embarrassment. Raj. Oh dear. Expression. Raj is quiet, polite. Exclamation, reflecting his reaction to Sheldon's social faux pas. Raj. Nevertheless, this will be reflected in her tip. Expression. Raj, unable to speak to Penny directly, expresses his passive-aggressive intention to penalize her tip for not taking his order, a peculiar form of protest given his selective mutism. Scene. The stairwell of the apartment building. Sheldon. Well, I assume she meant that the two of you together would constitute a couple that others might consider cute. An alternate and somewhat less likely interpretation is that you could manufacture one. As in, oh look, Leonard and Leslie made Mr. and Mrs. Goldfarb, aren't they adorable? Vocabulary. Constitute. To be, a part of a whole. Manufacture. To make something on a large scale using machinery. Expression. Sheldon meticulously analyzes Penny's cute couple comment, offering both the obvious social interpretation and a bizarre, literal, scientific, manufacturing, interpretation, showing his hyper-literal and abstract thought processes. Leonard. If Penny didn't know that Leslie had already turned me down then. That would unambiguously mean that she, Penny, thought that I should her, Leslie, out, indicating that she, Penny, had no interest in me asking her, Penny, out. But because she did know that I had asked Leslie out and that she, Leslie, had turned me down then she, Penny, could be offering consolation. That's too bad, you would have made a cute couple. But while thinking, good, Leonard remains available. Vocabulary. Unambiguously. In a way that leaves no doubt. Consolation. Comfort received by a person after a loss or disappointment. Expression. Leonard launches into a highly convoluted, self-referential, and overanalyzed explanation of Penny's intentions, revealing his deep insecurity, his tendency to overthink social cues, and his underlying romantic interest in Penny. The repetition of she, Penny, and she, Leslie, adds to the comedic complexity. Sheldon. You're a lucky man, Leonard. Expression. Sheldon's sarcastic comment, acknowledging the immense cognitive effort required to follow Leonard's tangled logic. Sheldon. You're talking to one of the 3 men in the Western Hemisphere capable of following that train of thought. Idiom. Train of thought, idiomatic. The way a person thinks about a particular subject. Cultural, geographical reference, Western Hemisphere. The half of the Earth that is west of the prime meridian, including North and South America. Expression. Sheldon boasts about his unique intellectual capacity to follow complex reasoning, even if it's emotionally driven, highlighting his intellectual arrogance. Sheldon. I said I could follow it, I didn't say I cared. Expression. Sheldon delivers a classic zinger, confirming his intellectual prowess but disavowing any emotional investment in Leonard's relationship drama. Scene. The apartment living room. The string quartet are practicing. Leslie. I admire your fingering. Leonard. Thank you. Leslie. Maybe sometime you can try that on my instrument. Double entendre. Fingering, in music, refers to how one places fingers on an instrument, but also has a sexual connotation. My instrument similarly refers to a musical instrument, but also a sexual organ. Expression. Leslie engages in blatant sexual innuendo, using musical terms to express her attraction to Leonard, highlighting her direct and sexually confident personality. Leslie. Just so we're clear, you understand that me hanging back to practice with you is a pretext for letting you know that I'm sexually available. Vocabulary. Pretext. A reason given in justification of a course of action that is not the real reason. Expression. Leslie, impatient with Leonard's likely obliviousness, explicitly states her intentions, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Leslie. That was before I saw you handling that beautiful piece of wood between your legs. Double entendre. Piece of wood between your legs refers literally to the cello, but is a crude sexual metaphor. Expression. Leslie continues her explicit sexual advances, using another vulgar double entendre to describe her attraction to Leonard's cello playing, making her intentions abundantly clear. Leslie. No, I mean the obvious crude double entendre. I'm seducing you. Vocabulary. Crude. Lacking refinement or sophistication. Double entendre. A word or phrase open to two interpretations, one of which is usually risque or indecent. Seducing. Attracting someone to engage in sexual activity. Expression. Leslie spells out her intentions even more directly, leaving no doubt about the sexual nature of her overtures. Leslie. Well, I thought I saw your pupils dilate when you looked at her, which, unless you're a heroin addict, points to sexual attraction. Vocabulary. Pupils dilate. The widening of the black center of the eye. This can be a physiological response to arousal. Heroin addict. A person addicted to heroin. Expression. Leslie, a scientist, uses a physiological observation, pupil dilation, to deduce Leonard's attraction to Penny, offering a humorous and dark alternative explanation, heroin addiction. This shows her scientific, analytical mind applied to social situations. Leonard. Well, I did have a poppy seed bagel for breakfast, which could give a positive urine test for opiates but certainly not dilate my pupils, so I guess there's no point in bringing it up. Vocabulary. Poppy seed bagel. A bagel topped with poppy seeds. Poppy seeds contain trace amounts of opiates. Positive urine test for opiates. A drug test result indicating the presence of opiate drugs. Expression. Leonard's overly detailed and scientific explanation of why a poppy seed bagel wouldn't dilate his pupils, even if it could lead to a false positive for drugs, is typical of his overthinking and scientific precision. Leonard. A little musical foreplay. Terrific. Expression. Leonard, finally catching on to Leslie's sexual overtures, humorously refers to their musical practice as foreplay. Scene. The hallway. Sheldon. I need your opinion on a matter of semiotics. Vocabulary. Semiotics. The study of signs and symbols and their interpretation. Expression. Sheldon uses highly academic jargon to describe his need to understand a simple symbol, the tie on the door, highlighting his intellectualization of everyday occurrences. Penny. Okay, sweetie, I know you think you're explaining yourself, but you're really not. Expression. Penny, exasperated by Sheldon's academic language, gently points out that he's not making himself clear to a layperson. Sheldon. Yes, but I was 11. Expression. Sheldon's self-deprecating, for him, and humorous defense for not knowing a common social cue. He was a child prodigy who likely missed out on normal social development. Penny. All right, look, a tie on the doorknob usually means someone doesn't want to be disturbed because they're, getting busy. Idiom, euphemism, getting busy. Euphemism, engaging in sexual activity. Expression. Penny explains the common social code in a very direct, yet slightly uncomfortable, way to Sheldon. Sheldon. So you're saying Leonard has a girl in there. Expression. Sheldon's literal interpretation of Penny's euphemism, simplifying it to a concrete fact. Penny. Well, either that or he's lost his tie rack and gotten really into Bryan Adams. Cultural reference. Bryan Adams, Have You Ever Loved a Woman? A rock ballad, typically associated with romance and passion. Expression. Penny offers a sarcastic and humorous alternative explanation, playing on the song emanating from the room to make light of the situation. Leslie, voice off, Oh Leonard, you magnificent beast. Expression. Leslie's loud, over-the-top compliment, heard through the door, confirms Penny's and Sheldon's suspicions and adds to the comedic awkwardness. Sheldon. Oh, yes, but there's usually planning, courtship and advance notice. Last time I was able to book a cruise to The Arctic to see a solar eclipse. Vocabulary. Courtship. The period during which a couple develop a romantic relationship, especially with a view to marriage. Solar eclipse. An event where the moon passes between the sun and earth, blocking the sun's light. Expression. Sheldon reveals his elaborate coping mechanism for Leonard's sexual activity, planning a distant escape to avoid being disturbed, highlighting his extreme avoidance of social discomfort. Sheldon. Well, there's Leonard. Picking up violin case, and he's either with Leslie Winkle or a 1930s gangster. Expression. Sheldon's humorous deduction based on the violin case, playing on the stereotype of gangsters carrying violins. Often to hide weapons. Sheldon. I don't know what the protocol is here. Do I stay? Do I leave? Do I wait to greet them with a refreshing beverage? Vocabulary. Protocol. The official procedure or system of rules governing affairs of state or diplomatic occasions. Sheldon applies this formal term to a domestic social situation. Expression. Sheldon, completely out of his depth in this social situation, desperately seeks a rigid set of rules. Protocol, to guide his behavior, highlighting his dependence on structure and lack of social intuition. Penny. Gee, Sheldon, you're asking the wrong girl. I'm usually on the other side of the tie. Expression. Penny, with a wink and a smile, implies she's usually the one having sex behind a closed door. Offering a confident and slightly risque response that Sheldon won't fully grasp. Sheldon. Hi, Leonard. It's me, Sheldon. In the living room. I wanted you to know I saw the tie. Message received. You're welcome. You carry on. Give my best to Leslie. Expression. Sheldon's awkward, overly formal, and ultimately unhelpful phone call to Leonard from the next room demonstrates his complete lack of social grace and his need to officially acknowledge the message of the tie. Scene. Living room. Sheldon is sleeping on the sofa. Sheldon. Big boy. Expression. Sheldon's dream, or waking thought, of the big boy hamburger, showing his subconscious preoccupation with the burger. Sheldon. Someone touched my board. Oh God, my board. Leonard. Expression. Sheldon's frantic reaction to his equations being altered, treating his whiteboard like a sacred and untouchable object. Sheldon. Look at the beta function of quantum chronodynamics, the sign's been changed. Scientific terminology. Beta function, in quantum field theory. The beta function describes the dependence of a coupling parameter on the energy scale of a given physical process. Quantum chronodynamics, a play on quantum chromodynamics, a theory of the strong interaction between quarks and gluons. The chrono implies something related to time. Expression. Sheldon uses highly specific and complex theoretical physics jargon to describe the tampering with his work, emphasizing the intellectual depth of his research. Sheldon. Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? Are you, hey look, that fixes the problem I've been having. Expression. Sheldon's initial outrage at the alteration quickly turns to stunned realization and acceptance when he sees that the change actually solves his problem, highlighting his intellectual honesty despite his ego. Leslie. Yeah, I noticed it when I got up to get a glass of water, so I fixed it. Now you can show that quarks are asymptotically free at high energies. Pretty cool, huh? Scientific terminology. Quarks. Elementary particles and a fundamental constituent of matter. Asymptotically free, quantum field. Theory. A phenomenon in which the interaction between particles becomes weaker as the energy scale increases and the distance between them decreases. Expression. Leslie's casual explanation of her profound correction to Sheldon's work, using advanced physics concepts, underscores her own genius and how easily she solved a problem that had stumped him. Sheldon. Cool? Expression. Sheldon's bewildered and slightly resentful reaction to Leslie's cool, unable to fully process that someone else, and a woman, no less, could so effortlessly fix his work. Leslie. Listen, I got to hit the lab. Idiom. Hit the lab. Informal, go to the laboratory. Expression. Leslie's casual departure. Highlighting her focus on her own work. Sheldon. Who told you could touch my board? Expression. Sheldon's indignant reaction, focusing on the violation of his personal space and intellectual property rather than the brilliant solution Leslie provided. Leslie. There are no incorrect equations on my board. Expression. Leslie delivers a scathing retort, implying that her work is always perfect, unlike Sheldon's, which contained errors she easily corrected. This is a direct challenge to his intellectual superiority. Sheldon. Oh, that is so. Expression. Sheldon struggles to find an adequate adjective to express his frustration, showing his temporary loss for words in the face of Leslie's bluntness. Leslie. I'm sorry, I've got to run. If you come up with an adjective, text me. Expression. Leslie mocks Sheldon's inability to articulate his anger, delivering a final jab as she leaves. Sheldon. Inconsiderate, that is the adjective, inconsiderate. Expression. Sheldon finally finds the word, shouting it after Leslie, emphasizing his intellectual, but not emotional, triumph. Scene. The hallway. Sheldon. I'm not staring, I'm mulling. Vocabulary. Mulling. Thinking about, a fact, proposal, or request, deeply and at length. Expression. Sheldon corrects Leonard's assumption, insisting he's engaged in deep thought rather than just staring, maintaining his intellectual facade. Penny. Well, a little bird told me that you and Leslie hooked up last night. Idiom. A little bird told me. Idiomatic, used to indicate that the speaker heard something from a secret or unidentifiable source. Idiom. Hooked up, informal, engaged in sexual activity or started a casual romantic relationship. Expression. Penny uses a common idiom to imply she heard about Leonard's night. But the little bird is clearly Sheldon. Leonard. Sheldon. Expression. Leonard's frustrated exclamation, knowing Sheldon is the source of Penny's information. Sheldon. I'm coming. Expression. Sheldon's literal response, not realizing he's been called out for tattling. Leonard. Pretty, very, there's really no objective scale for delineating variations of good, why do you ask? Vocabulary. Objective scale. A measurement system that is unbiased and based on observable facts. Delineating. Describing or portraying something, precisely. Expression. Leonard, trying to avoid discussing his private life with Penny, deflects by engaging in a philosophical debate about the subjective nature of good, showcasing his intellectual tendency to overanalyze. Sheldon. Boy, you're wound awfully tight for a man who just had sexual intercourse. Idiom. Wound tight, informal, tense, anxious, or highly strung. Expression. Sheldon makes a blunt, socially inappropriate observation about Leonard's post-coital state, once again demonstrating his lack of social filter. Leonard. What did she mean, she's happy? For me? Is she happy because I'm seeing someone, or is she happy because she thinks that I'm happy, because anyone who cared for someone would want them to be happy? Even if the reason for their happiness made the first person unhappy. You know, because the second person, though happy, is now romantically unavailable to the first person. Expression. Leonard once again dives into a highly complex, insecure, and self-referential analysis of Penny's intentions, revealing his persistent hope for a romantic relationship with her, even as he pursues one with Leslie. Sheldon. Do you realize I may have to share a Nobel Prize with your booty call? Cultural reference. Nobel Prize. Prestigious international awards given for outstanding achievements in physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature, and economics. Slang. Booty call, slang, a late night phone call or text message to arrange a sexual encounter. Expression. Sheldon dismisses Leonard's complex emotional dilemma and instead focuses on his own scientific anxiety. The possibility of having to share a Nobel Prize with someone he considers merely a booty call, highlighting his ego and his focus on intellectual recognition. Leonard. You don't believe in luck. Sheldon. I don't have to believe in it for her to be lucky. Expression. Sheldon's intellectual gymnastics, while he might not believe in the concept of luck as a fundamental force, he acknowledges its practical manifestation in Leslie's accidental solution, demonstrating his ability to rationalize. Leonard. Regardless, I have a chance at a real relationship with Leslie. I'm not going to pass that up for some hypothetical future happiness with a woman who may or may not want me to be happy with a woman who is currently making me happy. Expression. Leonard, for a moment, articulates a very real and rational decision about his relationship with Leslie, choosing tangible happiness over an uncertain future with Penny. Sheldon, I still don't care. Expression. Sheldon delivers his final, cold, and humorous dismissal of Leonard's emotional turmoil, reinforcing his characteristic detachment. Scene. Leonard and Leslie's lab. Leslie. Careful Leonard, liquid nitrogen, 320 degrees below zero. Vocabulary. Liquid nitrogen. Nitrogen in a liquid state, used as a cryogenic coolant. 320 degrees below zero, referring to approximately -196 degrees Celsius or -320 degrees Fahrenheit, the boiling point of liquid nitrogen. Expression. Leslie's warning about the extreme cold of liquid nitrogen, highlighting the dangerous environment of their lab. Leslie, because I've got a bowl of Cheerios and one couldn't find a knife. Cultural reference. Cheerios, a brand of breakfast cereal. Expression. Leslie's absurd and humorous reason for smashing a frozen banana, showing her pragmatic and unconventional approach to everyday problems, often resorting to scientific tools. Leonard, do you want to slip over to the radiation lab and share a decontamination shower? Vocabulary. Radiation lab. A laboratory that deals with radioactive materials. Decontamination shower. A shower used to remove radioactive or hazardous substances from a person's body. Expression. Leonard, attempting to be seductive, suggests a decontamination shower as a romantic setting, blending his scientific environment with his romantic aspirations. Leonard, I'm not sure, but I think I'm about to discover how the banana felt. Expression. Leonard makes a self-deprecating joke, predicting he's about to be smashed or rejected, like the frozen banana. Leslie. Listen, Leonard, neither of us are neuroscientists, but we both understand the biochemistry of sex. I mean, dopamine in our brains is released across synapses causing pleasure. You stick electrodes in a rat's brain, give him an orgasm button, he'll push that thing until he starves to death. Vocabulary. Neuroscientists. Scientists who study the nervous system, biochemistry of sex, the chemical processes involved in sexual arousal and activity. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. Synapses, junctions between two nerve cells, across which impulses pass by diffusion of a neurotransmitter. Electrodes, conductors through which electricity enters or leaves an object. Hypothalamus, a region of the brain that controls body temperature, hunger, thirst, and important aspects of parenting and attachment behaviors. Thirst, fatigue, sleep, and circadian rhythms. Expression. Leslie gives a cold, clinical, and highly scientific explanation of sexual attraction and pleasure, reducing it to a purely biochemical process, revealing her rational and detached view of intimacy. The rat experiment analogy is a classic example of behavioral psychology. Leslie. Well, I don't know about your sex drive, but I'm probably good till New Year's. Expression. Leslie, with clinical bluntness, informs Leonard that her sexual needs are satisfied for the foreseeable future, effectively ending their casual sexual relationship. Leslie. Whoa, Leonard, please, you're smothering me. Idiom. Smothering me, idiomatic, being overly affectionate, possessive, or suffocating in a relationship. Expression. Leslie uses a common phrase to indicate Leonard as being too intense and demanding, leading to their breakup. Howard. Hey, look, it's Dr. Stud. Slang. Stud, slang. A man who is considered very attractive and good at sex. Expression. Howard jokingly calls Leonard Dr. Stud, mocking his newfound sexual activity. Howard. The blogosphere is a buzzing with news of you and Leslie Winkle making Eine Kleine Bang Bang music. Vocabulary. Blogosphere. The world of blogs and bloggers. Eine Kleine Bang Bang music, a crude, sexualized play on Eine Kleine Nachtmusik, a little night music, a famous serenade by Mozart. Bang bang is a slang term for sexual intercourse. Expression. Howard reveals he posted about Leonard's sexual encounter online, using a vulgar and twisted musical reference. Leonard. Well, that part's true. Expression. Leonard, despite the embarrassment, takes pride in Leslie's earlier compliment, showing his ego. Scene: the Cheesecake Factory. Sheldon: I won't go out on a limb, but I think we may be looking at my new Tuesday hamburger. Idiom: go out on a limb. Idiomatic: to put oneself in a vulnerable or risky position. Expression: Sheldon, despite his initial reluctance, declares the Cheesecake Factory burger to be his new preferred Tuesday burger, showing his willingness to cautiously embrace change when the data supports it. Sheldon: your old Tuesday hamburger will be so broken-hearted. Expression: Sheldon personifies his previous burger, making a humorous and rare, empathetic comment. Sheldon: way ahead of you. Idiom: way ahead of you. Idiomatic: to have already thought of or done something that someone else is suggesting. Expression: Sheldon, ever prepared, indicates he's already considered the implications of his burger change. Sheldon: yeah, the name always confused me anyway. Soup plantation. You can't grow soup. Cultural reference: Soup Plantation, a buffet-style restaurant chain, also known as Sweet Tomatoes. Expression: Sheldon reveals another one of his literal interpretations of everyday language, pointing out the illogical name of a restaurant chain. Sheldon: who do I speak to about permanently reserving this table? Expression: Sheldon's extreme commitment to his new routine, immediately wanting to secure a permanent spot. Penny: I don't know, a psychiatrist? Expression: Penny's sarcastic suggestion that Sheldon's obsessive need for routine might require psychological help. Leonard: oh, to be honest, I don't think it's going to work out. Expression: Leonard's admission that his relationship with Leslie has ended. Penny: oh, that's too bad. Well, hey, don't worry, I'm sure there is someone out there who is just right for you. Walks away smiling. Idiom: just right for you. Idiomatic: perfect for someone. Expression: Penny offers a seemingly comforting platitude, but her subsequent smile suggests a deeper, more self-serving meaning, that Leonard is now available to her. Leonard: well, what did she mean by that? Was that just a generic platitude or was that a subtle bid for attention? Vocabulary: generic platitude, a trite, unoriginal, and often moralizing statement that lacks sincerity. Subtle bid for attention, a quiet or indirect attempt to get someone's notice or interest. Expression: Leonard, once again, overanalyzes Penny's intentions, trapped in his own romantic uncertainty. Sheldon: you know why this hamburger surpasses the Big Boy? This is a single-decker hamburger whereas the Big Boy is a double-decker. This has a much more satisfying meat to bun to condiment ratio. Vocabulary: single-decker, double-decker, referring to the number of patties in a hamburger. Condiment: a substance, such as salt, mustard, or relish, used to add flavor to food. Ratio: the quantitative relationship between two amounts. Expression: Sheldon, oblivious to Leonard's emotional distress, launches into a highly detailed and scientific analysis of the hamburger's superior qualities, emphasizing his focus on objective criteria. Sheldon: of course I'm listening. Blah blah, hopeless Penny delusion, blah blah blah. Expression: Sheldon reveals he is listening but dismisses Leonard's concerns about Penny as a hopeless delusion, showing his bluntness and lack of empathy for Leonard's romantic hopes. Leonard: you know, you can grow the ingredients for soup. Expression: Leonard's final, quiet, and humorous retort, correcting Sheldon's literal interpretation of soup. Plantation: a subtle victory for common sense over Sheldon's rigid logic.